Good morning everyone and welcome back to American Truck Simulator. Today we're back in the Mack R, equipped with the Mack Thermodyne engine. As it happens, we're back on Cabbage Hill. But as you can see, the weather has taken a bit of a turn. Cue the explosion. And I promise that today's video is not going to be a short joke. This will be a shorter video. And I want to just explore the Mack Thermodyne engine a little bit more and just see how well it runs in the snowy conditions, as well as the Grimes Frosty's Winter Weather mod. I'm also using my own custom physics mod. But I'll get back to that one later. First of all, let me just pop up on the screen the power and torque curves of the Mack Thermodyne that I'm using today, as presented to the simulation by the engine mod. This is the Mack ENDT 673C for Charlie. It's the 250 horsepower rated engine. And I'm going to pop up on the right hand side of the screen, and yeah, I'm going to run out of screen soon, I'm sure, the Mack documentation that I found about this particular engine. And of these two pages, page number 1 is more concerning the mechanical specification of the engine, the maximum output numbers, all that sort of stuff. And page 2 is what has to be translated into the engine model that's built into the Mack engines pack. This has to be interpreted because I don't get the full engine range here. I get most of it. So I have to interpret and try and figure out what would happen below those engine speeds where they've measured the engine. And that becomes really critical to how the truck performs. Like, let's suppose you're going up a hill and you're downshifting, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. If you were to let the engine run underneath its recommended engine speed range, it's not going to stall on you. You just need to have an idea of what it might do. Of course, there are many factors here, so you've got to consider the gearing of the truck as well. The gearing that I'm using today is exceptionally short. It's not a short person joke, in that lots of revs equates to a fairly slower road speed, but you need that with not that much output out the road, and I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. But as for today's trip, we're taking some waste paper to Kennewick, and it's close to 39,000 pounds. That's a pretty chunky cargo for such a low-powered engine, and even with that short gearing. 55 miles an hour is about 1800 revs, and yes, I can stretch the engine out to 2100 and nearly do 65, but we're asking a lot of this low-powered engine, even with all those extra revs. Now I'm going to pull into stop up here. My driver's getting tired, so I'm going to suppose that there's a nice hotel, a nice warm bed and shower, that I can take a break. But of course, between now and then, this weather is most definitely closing in, and yeah, it's going to become a bit of a challenge. And if you've watched the channel for some time, you'll know that I'm not always the most proficient of steerers, shall we say. This particular physics mod I've tweaked around with, that just makes things a lot worse, especially with a shorter wheelbase truck. It's just not very stable. So a small steering input can have the thing seemingly sliding around all over the road. Braking is particularly impacted by this. You can also spin the wheels. In fact, it's very easy to lock up a wheel with using a bit of engine brake, even with a fairly small engine with not that much engine braking. So that's one of the challenges that Mack's custom physics mod gives me. It works amazing with the snowy weather conditions because, I mean, if you've driven in snow, you tend to roll around up quite a lot in the snow. You bump in and out of those grooves caused by other traffic. This mod is the closest I've come to it, but it can be quite frustrating when you run into the back of yet another vehicle, and of course, that's probably quite accurate if I control this in real life. So I'm just about finding where I'm going to stop for the night. Probably going to end up backing it into a space. But let me talk a little bit more about that whole concept of short gearing, low-powered engines. And I guess by way of an example, so the Steel Productions Cummins ISX15 patch mod. What that does is that changes the torque curve of the ISX15 engine in the game for those stock trucks to try and make it more accurate. And if you use that mod, you may want to modify the gearing that you use so that you cruise at, let's say, 55 at, let's say, just over 1100 revs, because you've got peak torque available at that speed. Now, at just over 1100 revs, your engine's producing about 350 horsepower, give or take. And that's the ISX15 450. Okay, so far so good. Your little Mack ENDT 673C is producing about 345 horsepower from memory at that cruising speed using this particular gearbox. So it's 100 horsepower less. But the engine is rated at 250 as opposed to 450. But that rating doesn't really matter, at least it doesn't matter in this context. If the hill requires 225 horsepower to climb, and you can produce 225, you can climb it without losing speed. There's a bunch of caveats there, but power is produced by the engine, and it's needed to overcome friction as well as climbing. And I'm not going to try and go into all the physics today because I don't pretend to fully understand them. What I do understand is that if a hill or a set of circumstances requires power X, if you can produce more than X, you can accelerate. If you cannot produce more than X, you either maintain speed if you're producing X or you start to slow down. So in this case, these hills require roughly 240, 260 horsepower. Sometimes I'm going to be able to maintain my speed. Sometimes I can accelerate a little bit. Sometimes I'm going to lose speed. But you know what? I don't need much power to back this trailer into this spot. I just need to be precise with my steering input, and I think I've gone on that far too long at some of the physics stuff. I guess I'll summarize by saying I like the fact that SCS have modeled some of the physics, a lot of the physics into the game. It's not perfect. I'd love to see aerodynamics, but the engine probably doesn't take that into account. And being able to fine-tune these Mack engines, or any other engine I've worked on, to get it to be as accurate as I can, I like that. Thanks, SCS. I've almost got this lined up. So that pretty much draws today's video to a conclusion. You watched me drive around a little bit in an old Mack R with an old simulated engine and park and maneuver and all that fun stuff. You got to listen to me ramble on about physics. Yay, great video everyone. But seriously, I hope that you enjoyed it. Follow for more of these random talks, and I'll see you in the next one. Keep the snowy bits on the roof. Take care, y'all. Bye.